Hi guys, this is my site, the Tomb of Illumination. It's all about the physics of our earth, what you're not taught, what you're not told in regards to our flat earth system. So I'll do this video for the newbies who are just getting into flat earth and want to understand how it all works. You're not getting it anywhere else. All these other flat earth sites are just concentrate on one hemisphere. They don't give you the full dual picture. We live in a duality, so you have to understand the two systems. It gets pretty complicated, but I'll try and keep it basic so you can all follow along. You can jump onto other sites if you want, but if you want to know the ultimate, you stay here and even get on my Patreon page. So let's get on to it. This has got a flat earth, right? Looking down on it as a plane, looking down from above. If you could see everything, you'd see the southern hemisphere out here, and there'd be a tropical gap. There's the tropics in here, which is dividing the northern hemisphere. Look how small the northern hemisphere is. Because we live inside this magnetic field. It's the flux. You can imagine it as the flux of a ring magnet. Okay? The centre north is in the central half here, and everything expands out. So whenever we travel south, the whole field is expanding, getting bigger and bigger. But we can't tell because it's all relative to the observer. As you're moving, everything's growing with you, and when you come back, it shrinks with you. Because we're all creatures of the light. Everything is of the light. Imagine it as just energy. Nothing's actually physical. We just perceive everything as physical. Okay? Everything expands and returns back. It's a returning field. And what they don't tell you is the northern hemisphere is basically the same as the southern hemisphere. The magnetic field does not go around. Does not go all the way around a ball from here around and go into here. It's a complete lie, because the magnetic field cannot cross this tropical gap in here. Okay? The field comes around and goes down into here. Along the ground now shall it go, and then comes back up through the ground and back out. So get rid of that silly image. You're not going to learn anything from that. That's to keep you dumb. So if you like being dumb, you want to leave this world dumb and come back and have to do it all over again, you keep following that dumb shit there, okay? Otherwise, you go to the flat earth system. The field comes up out of the north, the magnetic field, flows up to the Tropic of Cancer, and then drops straight down into the earth. Goes along the ground, then returns back up in the south. So the field rises in the north and it rises in the south. But this goes down to the Tropic of Capricorn, this hemisphere, shoots down to the ground, through the ground, then back up this way. Okay? That's the flow of the magnetic field. That's the way it flows. That's the infinity symbol. That's the S, or 8 figure, okay? Now, so that's the main magnetic field of Earth, but we live in an electromagnetic realm, so you have to bring the electrical into it, which is the sun. So what creates the sun? Well, in physics, we have what we call as capacitor plates. Okay? And these are the metaphysical capacitor plates in our earthly system. The Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer in here. And between these two fields creates the electromagnetic. We have a south pole and a north pole, so south and a north pole here. So you like, so you know, once you split a magnet, it's pretty hard to split a magnet, isn't it? Because you break a magnet down, it'll just have its own north and south pole here, north and south pole here. But you've got to realise in this system, it's just split enough to keep the monopoles. It's all about this gap. Okay? And this is where the magic is in this tropical gap. And due to it's all about the hydrogen molecule rising up through this gap being ionized and then being shredded, and then they become like isotopes in physics and recombine, which then, this is the Milky Way. It feeds over to the centre Arctic, feeding our actual sun, which is pure plasma you cannot see. Okay? This is electromagnetic now. Magnetism, north and south poles have created an electromagnetic field. While off the Earth, this magnetic field, this is the female, comes up this way. That's the other end of the Milky Way. And bingo, lights up the plasma, feeds the plasma sun, which is on the horizon of the black hole, a neutral state. Let's go back a bit. So this is how you'd see it if you could see the whole thing as a whole, not exactly relative to the observer. So you've got to see it as even. See, this way you don't see it as even. That's the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. So you would expect to see a small north and a large south. But you just got to ignore that for now. It gets pretty complicated. You just imagine it this way. If you could see the whole lot relative to the observer equal, okay? So now you've got to understand that the southern hemisphere is more widely dispersed, right, than the centre. So you've got to realise that's where all the energy is strongest. Look, it's all compacted into the northern hemisphere. But that amount of energy is the same energy as out here. That's all they tell you in physics, is they're both the same. They don't explain this weaker field due to the expansion, okay? Tight magnetic field in here, same energy out here, but it's all expanded, expressed out. So it's a weaker field in the cycle. So you have a big, weak cycle, strong cycle. So the ancient referred to it as male and female. Okay? So you need to understand the sun's analemma and the shape it takes. Now we can take photos every day of the year in either hemisphere at the sun's position at the exact same time right through the whole year, and you'll get this cycle, this pattern, the figure 8. Okay? So this is the way it is in the southern hemisphere. We get a figure this way. That's facing the tropical gap, tropics, up in the sky. But in the northern hemisphere, this end's facing the tropics. They're mirrored. Bear that in mind. So now understand, we live in the flux. So treat it like a ring magnet. Okay? And we live in the flux of the ring magnet. You can't leave the flux. Nothing exists outside the flux. There's no such thing as space and travelling through La La Land, okay? That's for drongos. So we're locked in this. You put the hole, centre hole is here, in the Arctic region, above the Arctic. We cannot get out of our flux to get in there. So you've seen a video on YouTube where they're showing you looking down, possibly into there. Well, that's not true. You cannot get out here to look down into the central vortex of creation. You cannot go back to creation. You cannot go back through your mother's umbilical cord to where you came from, can you? So wake up. Don't be silly like some flat earthers and think you can see down into the vortex. That Russian video is in regards to maybe a hurricane or something. They reckon they're up there, they're filming it. Or it could be just all make-believe bullshit. CGI. So we're in the flux, okay? And that centre hole is very minute in the centre of Earth here. So there's a centre hole. It's a centre hole right in the centre of the northern hemisphere in here. Now understand, the magnetic field does not cross the tropics, okay? So on the globe, like I said before, The magnetic field cannot flow all the way around to the other end like this because there's the big tropical gap. It does not pass over. In science they tell you it's very weak at the equator, very strong at the poles. Failing to tell you it doesn't even cross the tropics to get to the equator. It's only weak here. You get a direct magnetic field between the tropics because the field has come around and built up on the sides. Built up on the sides here. This is why we get direct travel between the tropics. If you follow a compass setting, when the rest of the flat Earth system, you're following a curved path like this, a Fibonacci golden cycle like that, or coming out the other way in the northern hemisphere. Okay, but during if you're traveling through the tropics, it's direct. It's the only place you get a direct north to south reading on a compass. Doesn't matter if this is north, that's south, or vice versa. When it comes to a compass, doesn't matter. They're going to point this way or point that way because the other one's here. It's all from the centre out. Bear in mind, in the northern hemisphere, your compass is opposite to a southern hemisphere compass because the strength is out here in the south, while in the north it's in the centre, there. So you could say, there's your north, there's your south. There's your north, there's your south here. Okay? So, understanding these two southern fields here. Two fields the same don't attract, do they? But if it's a strong force seeking the weak force, or vice versa, it wants to get to the other side. This is the nanny goat, bully goat, gruff thing, is it? It has to get to the other side to seek equilibrium. There's a strong force and a weak force. The weak force seeks a strong force. So they tell you the cold will rush to the warm, but the warm won't rush back out to the south, will it? Because that's not the way the magnetic field flows. It's basically, and the magnetic field is in the wind. Okay, it carries the wind. Look at any meteorology chart over the world, over the earth, and it will show you the wind, the field coming into the tropics, and the field coming out of the north to the tropics. Just like that. Coming in like this. Coming in like this. Wow, what's happening to that? It's all dropping straight down into the ground. Along the ground thou shalt go. It's all described in the Bible. If only people could read it. They can't. Okay, so the energy build up here takes you back to physics, the capacitor plates, creating this extra energy in here, which is electromagnetic. This is why the sun is the hermaphrodite. It's male and female. Because the north and the south pole, you've got male and female. When the female is just two ends. This gets confusing again because... So, well, what we should be doing is teaching everybody that this is the south pole. North pole. South pole. North pole. Because the south represents... Oh, it depends on how you want to look at it. If you're going with the common theory of north and south pole, then the south has to be up here. That's the weaker force. Okay? Yeah, that gets confusing too. Okay, just bear in mind that there's a weak force and a strong force, okay? So these confuse you. But this center north here represents the female. Okay, see that shape? The female, the weaker force. Due to the fact the weak forces come from there up here into here. And this is why in science they tell you that the north is the south. Is the south or the south is the north? To confuse you? Because they know all the system, but they don't want to tell you it. Okay? Because they'll lose control of your mind. They want to control you, so they give you the spinning ball theory, okay? So just concentrate on a weak force out in the south and a strong force in here. In the male, we're made up of an X and a Y, which is weak and strong. And the female just has the two weak forces. And that goes a lot deeper when it comes to spirituality. Being closer to the divine is the female, because she's basically there already. The male has to seek out his weak force to gain spiritual enlightenment, but that's going away from our flat earth lesson today. So, understanding the flow of the magnetic field, understanding what it looks like, because this is just a slice straight through the flat earth. So you get the south there, right? Well, south there, northern hemisphere in here. Okay? Right in there, that's the northern hemisphere, right in there. That's the big tropics, everything's expanding outward. And once you start understanding all this, you start understanding what the flower of life is representing, the tilting of the ecliptic plane, because all our entire realm is hidden in here. Okay? Rub this out. The ecliptic plane, you can say, is right out here. Tropics, but there. All the magic's in there, which takes our whole realm back to this flat plane of nothingness. Flat plane. But due to magnetism, and some of you might have seen it in the Ken Wheeler videos, it creates a depth magnetic field with the ferrocell fluid and the thin sheet clear vinyl, whatever. Magnetic depth creates a 3D depth. This flat plane becomes a 3D depth. Yet there's only a 2 micron or whatever he said, flat plane, but there's all this depth. You look down in it, there's all this depth. Where's that coming from? Well, that's why they say we come from nothing in physics. Don't be put off if you're religious and think, oh, how can we come from nothing? They're describing the physics exactly when it comes to magnetism. That's what it's all about. Magic comes from magnetism. It's just the magic realm we're from. We are from this projection. And that's what creates this exploded reality of ours. Perceived reality. It's our reality, but we perceive everything to be physical. But it's not. We're of the light. It all boils back to the sun. So then you've got to understand the sun. What is the purpose of the sun? The sun holds all the frequencies which gives life, because we wouldn't exist. Nothing, everything would just be black as if there was no sun at all. Okay? But we have a sun and a moon. So this sun actually sits up in the 2D plane. What's down beneath it in the cycles of time, you could say, is its mirrored projection, which is the same size, doing this cycle. What is that called? It's called a moon. The moon is actually the sun, okay? The sun does not do this. The sun just goes around in a small circle. Very boring, as it's stated in mythological stories. The moon does this S-curve, because that S-curve is the magnetic projection, the depth of the 2D plane above. Hard to imagine that the moon could do this, and it is the sun. But then you have to go back to the black hole of creation. Circular, and there's the sun on its horizon, and it moves around this black hole. It does a small circle. That's your 24-hour day, 360 degrees. Just like Polaris. Polaris does a small circle like that, because the sun above here is Polaris. It's a big stretch of the imagination for people who don't understand anything when it comes to our true realm, flat earth. So that sun moving around like that, and the black hole, via the black hole, creates the moon, the image of the moon. It's not the light of the sun making the moon visible. The sun dissolves the moon. The sun is on this part. That part of the moon we see is due to the position of the sun across the hole. The black hole is blocking the sun. And I'll describe that. So let's say the sun's here and the moon's here. Then that part of the moon will not be seen due to the sun. Only due to the black hole do we see the moon. It's the shadow. What we see of the moon here is the shadow of the sun via the hole. Okay? In other words, the moon is self-illuminating via the hole. The part we see is the part the sun is not hitting. Okay? Now this is all back at creation here. This is not the projected realm out here. We get all the images out in our realm. But this is right back in creation and here. In this vortex. Okay? That's how it works. Then you've got to imagine everything being projected out. And what are you getting? You're getting a 2D plane. Disc. They're just discs. How can you get a 3D sphere projected from here? No, it's just a 2D. They're all discs. They're second states. A second state is not true. That's why our earthly realm is not full of truth. It's full of lies. Because it's not the first state. It's an imitation. First state's back here. It's true as can be. Okay? And when we go a little bit deeper, you start to understand the motion of the sun. Because it's all about the sun's analemma. It's seasonal change. Okay? As the sun comes down and crosses here, it's going into the southern hemisphere summer. There's the solstice down here. December. Comes all the way around, then starts going back up into the June solstice. The northern hemisphere, okay? There's centre north. It's this motion, it's all S-curve. All Fibonacci, golden ratio. Because it's all connected to the S-curve projection in here that's come from this 2D plane. It's all to do with magnetism, magic, magnetism. So there's your flat plane of nothingness we've come from. Projected this 3D depth and then the exploded image. Okay? So there's the flat plane of Earth and its magnetic flux is like this. Or like this underneath. There's Earth. It's a flux. But it goes like this because it's the centre hole of your ring magnet. Okay? You could say it goes like that. But we're in this realm, so we concentrate on this realm. This is the positive atmosphere, negative Earth. Going into physics, getting to understand this is going way too deep. You could say this is the negative. And then you have a neutral. Earth's neutral because Earth itself is from the black hole. It's the neutral. Okay, it's the running water that creates other things, and that's going a bit deep. But if you follow my videos, you start to learn all that stuff. You have positive, negative, say, and then you have a weak force, strong force, or North Pole, South Pole. It all starts breaking down. But you can imagine the Earth looking more like this, and we're in this realm here, or there. We can't get into here. That's creation. Going back through your mama's umbilical cord, back into her spot here, you can't get there. Despite what they tell you. Any questions? Put them in comments and I'll answer them. So we'll call this a crash course for flat earth beginners, okay? Thanks for watching. Put a thumbs up if you like this sort of thing, and or like and subscribe. Cheers.